Whispers at the Grimsby Hotel. One. At the edge of Bleakwood Town, shrouded by twisted oaks and perpetual fog, stood the Grimsby Hotel. Locals spoke its name only in whispers, claiming it was cursed, a place where guests checked in but rarely checked out. They said it wasn't just haunted. The hotel invited death, luring the brokenhearted, the desperate, and the damned into its embrace. Cassie Winters had never been one to believe in ghost stories. A junior journalist scraping by on freelance gigs, she was desperate for a headline that would catapult her into national news. When she stumbled across an old forum thread about Suicide Hotel, Grimsby, she knew she had found her story. She arrived just as the sun bled out behind the hills, casting a sickly orange over the crumbling Victorian building. Its facade, once grand, was now blistered and peeling, like a carcass rotting under an uncaring sky. The vacancy sign swung on rusted chains, creaking a hollow welcome. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and something else, something sweet, almost metallic. The lobby, dimly lit by a single flickering chandelier, was empty except for a clerk behind the counter. His skin was pale and waxy, eyes sunken deep into sockets like marbles pressed into clay. "Reservation?" he rasped without looking up. "Winters. Cassie Winters," she said, clutching her duffel bag tighter. He slid a tarnished brass key across the counter with a trembling hand. "Room 405. Fourth floor." The elevator looked as if it hadn't moved since the 1950s. She opted for the stairs instead, each step groaning under her weight. The corridors twisted like a maze, narrowing with every turn. Wallpaper peeled in long, yellowed strips, and the smell of rot grew stronger. Her room was modest, a small bed with a sagging mattress, a cracked mirror above a dresser, and a window so grimy it barely let in any light. A single note was taped to the wall near the bed. "Do not answer the door after midnight, no matter who knocks." Cassie snorted. Typical horror movie theatrics. Probably some local prankster trying to play up the town's haunted reputation. Still, unease prickled at the back of her neck as she set up her recorder and camera. She planned to stay up all night, document everything, prove it was all just urban legend. As darkness deepened, the hotel came alive with sounds, distant footsteps, muffled crying, the soft thud of something heavy dragging across the floor above. At 11:56 p.m., someone knocked. It was a gentle knock, barely more than a tap-tap-tap, like fingernails against wood. Cassie froze. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She glanced at the note again. "Do not answer the door after midnight." It wasn't midnight yet. The knock came again, louder this time, more urgent. She tiptoed to the door and pressed her eye to the peephole. At first, she saw nothing, just the dim hallway stretching endlessly in both directions. Then, a figure emerged from the gloom. A woman in a tattered hospital gown, her hair hanging in wet, matted clumps. Her head lolled unnaturally to one side, as if her neck had been broken. The woman's lips parted in a grotesque smile, revealing rows of blackened teeth. She lifted a skeletal hand and tapped once more on the door, tap-tap-tap. Cassie stumbled back, stifling a scream. She fumbled for her recorder, hit record, and backed into the corner of the room. The knocking continued for another agonizing minute before fading into silence. By 2 a.m., Cassie had convinced herself she'd imagined it. Stress, lack of sleep, an overactive imagination fueled by ghost stories. She didn't notice the mirror until it was too late. At first, it was just a flicker, a shape moving behind her. She whirled around, but the room was empty. When she turned back to the mirror, the reflection didn't match her movements. Her own image stared back at her, unmoving, with a hideous grin stretching impossibly wide across its face. The mirror shattered without warning, shards flying like daggers. One slashed across her cheek. She gasped, pressing her hand against the wound, blood seeping between her fingers. "Get a grip, Cassie," she whispered, voice trembling. She decided to leave, to hell with the story. But when she yanked open the door, the hallway beyond it changed. No longer the narrow, decaying corridor she had walked earlier, it now stretched into endless darkness. The walls pulsed as if alive, breathing. Whispers slithered from the shadows, calling her name. "Cassie." She slammed the door shut and turned back to the room, only it wasn't her room anymore. It was a perfect replica of her childhood bedroom, down to the faded blue curtains and the scratch marks on the wooden floor where she and her brother had played with toy trucks. Confused and trembling, she backed into the dresser, knocking over a framed photo. It was a picture of her family. Except everyone's eyes were hollow, gaping black pits, and blood poured from their mouths. She screamed. The door creaked open behind her. The woman from the hallway stood there, arms dangling limply by her sides. "You're not supposed to leave," she hissed, voice like 1,000 buzzing flies. Cassie bolted, sprinting down the endless hall, doors on either side slamming open and shut violently as she passed. Ghostly figures peered out, some hanging by nooses, others with wrists slashed, their faces twisted in agony. She realized, with gut-churning horror, that these were the hotel's past guests, all those who had given in to despair and ended their lives here. The hotel wasn't haunted by ghosts, it fed on suffering. It whispered despair into the ears of the vulnerable, warped their memories, manipulated their fears until they broke beyond repair. And now it had chosen her. She stumbled into the lobby, heart hammering, gasping for breath. The clerk still sat behind the counter, his face now a rotted mask of flesh. "I want to check out," she cried. He merely smiled, revealing a mouth full of worms. "There is no checkout," he said. The floor split open beneath her, and she plummeted into darkness. Cassie awoke in her room. Sunlight streamed through the filthy window. The clock read 7:13 a.m. Had it all been a nightmare? She grabbed her duffel and bolted for the door. The hallway looked normal again, worn but tangible. The front door was just ahead, a few more steps, and she'd be free. As she passed the front desk, she risked a glance at the clerk. It was a different man now, young, fresh-faced, smiling politely. "Hope you had a pleasant stay," he said. Cassie forced a tight smile and fled into the street. The air outside was crisp and real, filled with the distant sounds of cars and life. Relief washed over her. But as she passed a store window, something caught her eye. Her reflection smiled back at her. Only she wasn't smiling. The reflection's mouth stretched wider and wider, splitting her face grotesquely in two. Blood trickled from its eyes. Cassie stumbled back, heart seizing. Behind her reflection, the Grimsby Hotel loomed, not battered and abandoned, but pristine, its windows gleaming, its vacancy sign flickering in bright neon. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Hands shaking, she pulled it out. A message blinked on the screen. "Check-in complete. Thank you for choosing Grimsby. We hope you stay forever." Cassie dropped the phone. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. As the sky darkened and the fog rolled back in, the hotel's front door creaked open once more.